Hello, hello. Thank you for being here with me. Today I'm sharing vocal readings and my synthesis of focus topics from book 49 in my Book a Week series, The Magnanimous Heart by Narayan Helen Liebenson. When we become aware of how our mind is operating, how it's been operating, through a process of meditation and contemplation, or through many of the means available to us, we may find that there are mental patterns, mechanisms of thought that we've long been unconscious of that are not serving us in the least. We may find judgments, criticisms, anxieties that are not only not helpful, but that create more of themselves. What we find, and what I so recommend dabbling in, is that becoming aware of these patterns of thought, bringing them from the unconscious or subconscious space to full consciousness, may be the very thing that disintegrates them. When we remove the clutter of unconscious mental patterning and compulsive repetitive thought form, what will we find there? What is underneath all that clutter? When we begin to dabble in what is there, it may be incredibly frightening at first. The spaciousness there may feel unbearable because its very essence is mysterious. I highly recommend tinkering with allowing ourselves to remain in the spaciousness. What I would suggest that we can find there is the wondrous character of being alive itself. The pumping of our blood, the inhalation and exhalation that we are consistently involved in. The wonderment in regarding where that's coming from, regarding where the rubber meets the road between the voluntary and the involuntary. The wonder in asking ourselves, what is doing that? Who is doing that? Where did it come from? Without further ado, I'll move on toward today's vocal readings. Enjoy. The Magnanimous Heart. Compassion and love, loss and grief, joy and liberation. By Narayan Helen Liebenson. Page 9. If we practice with great intent and dedication, the practice becomes our life. Instead of practice being something we do, it is something we are. We become aware of a great secret treasure within our own hearts, an ease and peace that cannot be destroyed. Of course, this is not really a secret. It has been realized, understood, and taught by countless sages before. However, it is completely different to discover this truth for ourselves than to hear it from others. We meditate to discover that which is beyond conditions. We meditate to tame our minds and to train our hearts to discover for ourselves a peace that is truly unconditioned. Page 32. Magnanimous Heart operates like a swinging door. Experiences come in and experiences go out. Without clinging or interpretation, we digest and release experiences instead of getting caught in ideas about the way things are and how they should be, or finding fault with ourselves or others. This way of being allows us to encounter what is present with spaciousness. Buoyancy allows us to be not stuck to the content of each moment, to each sense perception. Whatever is here is here. Held in magnanimous heart, it flows through us with kindness and compassion, gentleness and tenderness. When we take this spacious approach, vulnerability becomes an asset instead of a problem because all is allowed and released. Vulnerability allows us to receive experiences without resistance. Relaxing into spaciousness, we allow each experience, whether pleasant or painful, to be received and released. We are open to the next moment's experience. Page 60. Living our lives free from regret means valuing each moment as the best moment life has to offer. Is there any moment other than now that is more worth being awake in? We would have to answer no to the question, given that now is the only moment in which life can be lived. There's nothing to be gained by looking forward to future events that seem better than this boring moment right now. This boring moment right now is our life. And everything else is just thought. When we make contact with the sparkling nature of right now, the specific content we encounter in this moment matters less. Ultimately, being present for whatever is going on is more important than whatever is going on. Page 76. Metta is not a form of positive thinking. The metta phrases offer alternatives to fear in the midst of fear. It is a tremendously empowering and protective way to relate to conditions. When we are wishing ourselves well, our attention is focused on the phrases and on love instead of on fear. True safety, however, lies in not allowing thoughts and emotions to convince us that they are true. Only knowing infinite, ungraspable spaciousness offers real refuge. Page 103. We don't practice for the purpose of attempting to fix ourselves, and the practice does not have to do with self-improvement or becoming perfect. Inner freedom is far different and much more relaxing than perfection. We are engaged in training the mind as a way to access intrinsic peacefulness and a constantly available current of joy. I don't see joy as the opposite of grief, but as the current that runs underneath all of life. The question is how to access and swim in this current. Page 128. Don't know mind is another word for joy, and joy is another word for wonder. Wonder is a sensing of the sacred and is not dependent on conditions and circumstances. Joy is a natural consequence of releasing and recognizing that conditions are largely out of our control. We practice reserving our judgments, willing to see in new ways. Don't know mind is a mind that is spacious rather than narrow and confined. In this spaciousness is a tangible sense of gentleness. The willingness to inquire with a silent mind provides access to a life of wonder. I'm moving to page 130 in order to connect to another passage here. In practicing Don't Know Mind, we touch an inner sense of aliveness and vitality in the here and now instead of waiting for the next moment to be the moment in which what we are waiting for happens. In the spaciousness of non-expectations, we open to life as it is. At the same time, a sense of vision, of direction, is essential. There's a path leading to liberation, and this path becomes visible through our ongoing dedication to the practice. Along the way, we can be guided by the wholesome, by loving kindness, honesty, non-attachment, and compassion. And we can listen attentively to the longings of the heart instead of following the bidding of the endless desires of the mind. I'm on page 189, and this is the final passage that I'll share from this book. It is paradoxically true that something is indeed missing. The wisdom of knowing that nothing is missing. The truth is that we will never be enough if we continue down the path of trying to fill ourselves through getting and accumulating. We will only succeed in reifying the delusion that we are not enough. We live in a culture in which consumption reigns supreme, yet our inner culture can be one of letting go. Letting go is a true refuge.